Hey, it's Kathy with Rock Your Retirement. And as promised, today's Friday, and so you'll be getting to listen to Henry Shapiro's Retired Excited. I know you're just going to love this as much as I do. And don't forget, you can still listen to Rock Your Retirement, where I'm the host, and those shows are released on Mondays.
Welcome to the Retired Excited podcast. Retired Excited, the show where we give retired and want to be retired folk a look at how great retired life can be. Here we talk to men and women who are happily retired and loving their life. We explore the techniques, activities, beliefs, and excitement of these happy retirees and examine how every Tom, Dick, and Mary can benefit from their experience. Together, we will delve into what retired happiness really looks like and how anyone can achieve it.
Here is your host, Henry Shapiro.
Hey folks, Henry here at Retired Excited, the show providing inspiration for people who are nearly retired, newly retired, or say they're never going to retire. If you're nearing retirement and fearful of what lies ahead, you don't need to be. If you're already retired and wondering how to fill your days, then this show is exactly for you. Here we talk to retired people doing things that make them happy. Things from stamp collecting to cruising, from dancing to touring the world on a motorbike. There's an exciting stage of life to be enjoyed after full-time work, and it's got nothing to do with your financial situation or social position. We talk to everyday retired people who are living the life they want, and we talk to a few professionals to get expert advice. And I chip in with some of my own experiences. Welcome everybody, it's Henry here with episode number 33 of Retired Excited. Today I went down to the local community centre because I knew that there was a sewing group down there. I walk in, there's a whole lot of ladies, let's say middle-aged and senior ladies, and a lot of food. I thought, oh, this doesn't look right. And they were giggling and having a great old time. Got talking to them, and it was the Berwick chapter, or the Berwick part of the Australian Sewing Guild. They had all this food because they had a guest speaker, and so they make a real feature of it. And a normal group meeting, which happens on the third Saturday of each month, they would have a little bit of food, and they do a whole bunch of sewing. And it's a terrific group. They seem to be helping each other and enjoying what they were doing. When I got talking to one of the ladies there, and you're going to hear an interview shortly with Dorothy Wright, she said there was no backstabbing. There was not like most groups you go to, whether it be a political group or a school council. There's always a bit of politics going on. No, not in this group. They're all there. They're single-minded about what they're doing, and they just love sewing. So I had to talk to Dorothy, and what we're going to talk about is why she does it, the sorts of things that they do, the equipment that you need, the sort of garments that they produce. And anyhow, let's listen to Dorothy. This is a reasonably short episode, and she can tell it much better than I can. So here we go. Good afternoon, Dorothy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Really well. It's a lovely day. It's nice to have a nice warm day for a change.
Oh, isn't it ever after all that rain?
Now, just explain to the listeners where we are.
We're in Berwick. We're in the Brentford Square. No, not Brentford Square.
We're in a community centre.
We're in a community centre in Berwick, that's right.
So listeners, you're going to hear a bit of background noise. There's some little kids doing gymnastics, and there's some ladies walking in and out. So if you hear that, that's all right. Dorothy, you were here with a group, or you are here with a group. What group is that?
Okay, it's part of the Australian Sewing Guild, and this is the Berwick group.
So can you tell me a little bit about the Guild?
The Guild is an Australia-wide organisation. It's been going now for close to 20 years.
Yeah.
And we have groups all over Australia, in every state except the Northern Territory, and we're working on that.
What's the purpose, or what's the objective of the Guild?
Well, our motto is furthering and sharing the art of sewing. Fantastic. So we want to encourage young people especially, but also all the others who used to sew and then have given it up for various reasons, to come back to it because of the pleasure of sewing.
Of sewing. So have you always been a sewer?
Since I was about 8 years old.
Couple of years, okay.
Yes.
So you're a retired person now, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And what were you doing before you retired?
I was an office worker.
Mm-hmm. Doing administrative work?
Yes.
Yeah. So as you came up to retirement, did you know you were going to retire, or were you retired?
Oh, no, I knew I was going to retire. My husband retired ahead of me and kept doing things like ringing me at work saying, "Oh, I'm having a coffee, so-and-so," you know.
What a rat bag.
So I retired too.
And as you came towards retirement, did you know what day it was going to be or when it was going to happen?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Were you looking forward to it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it was going to give me more time to sew.
Well, that was the next question.
Uh-huh.
You've jumped ahead of me. So as you came up to retire, what did you intend to do after you retired?
I don't know that I had anything specific that I wanted to do, other than, I suppose, just pursue more leisurely activities.
You're not a caravanning or a camping or a cruising kind of a person?
We had a caravan and we did a little bit of that,
Yeah.
but then I was also starting to get grandchildren, so I didn't want to be too far away from them.
I know that story.
Yes, yes. So no, it was more just being around the family and that kind of thing.
And were you passionate about sewing before you retired?
Oh, yes, I've been passionate all my life
Oh.
about sewing.
Tell me about the Guild. Were you a member of the Guild before you retired?
No, I joined just after I retired. I hadn't really been aware of it up until I retired, and I went to one of the craft shows and came across the girls there on the stand, and I thought, yes, this is what I've been looking for.
Sounds like you,
Yes.
So typically, who is in the Guild? Just can you describe the sort of people who are in it?
Oh, gosh, we've got all sorts of people. We do have some young ones, some young mums,
Yep.
and some teachers who like to sort of come and check out on what else is happening.
Yes.
And we do have quite a lot of retirees, which is lovely to see them getting involved in it. A lot of them will say, "Oh, I haven't done anything much for years, but this is fun."
How does it work? Just typically, if you have a meeting, what happens?
Well, most of them are much the same, and certainly in our case, we are here for the whole day, from 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon.
Yep.
So we come and we bring our sewing machines and our project.
There was a lot of food when I walked in. It looked delicious.
Well, today we had a guest speaker for the morning, and then we had lunch after it, and now we're going to sew for the afternoon.
And typically, are you all sewing the same thing, or how does it work? Or you just
We do a mixture.
you'd have different skills amongst
Well,
the
we
people.
do.
Or levels of skill, I should say.
Yeah. But of course, we help each other to sort all of that out. The end of the year, we have a little planning day where we decide what our projects will be for the following year. And so most of us will do those projects that we've set.
And typically, what may they be?
Well, we might say, now, for instance, there's 3 of us here today in this same style blouse. So we will say, let's all have a go at this pattern.
I see.
And we'll put our own individual tastes into it, different fabrics, different colours, different lengths, different whatevers to...
But as far as putting the garment together, you're all doing the same thing.
Exactly, yeah. But then by the same token, if we say to anybody, if that particular project doesn't appeal to you, then you just bring whatever you want to sew on.
So can you tell me some of the things that people are sewing?
Oh, well, we do have a few that bring along some patchwork. Most of us do garments.
Yes.
Some of us do grandchildren garments. Other times we get a bit crafty in that we do other sort of craft type of things that will go with our garments.
Right.
For instance, a few months ago we did a project which was taking a man's sloppy joe and cutting it up and turning it into a lady's jacket. Now that was an interesting one, and it was
sloppy joe, which is a jumper.
It's just it's a fleecy,
thing.
Jumper with a rib neck and a rib cuffs and rib bottoms.
Right.
So you cut off the ribs, and then you cut the garment up front and back, and then you start to embellish it with different fabrics and trims and things, and put on a collar and sew it all back together again, and we got some lovely garments out of that.
So the group did a number of these.
Yes.
My imagination has gone into
Aha.
into
You'll have to
overdrive.
come and visit us one day and we'll bring them to show you.
There's all sorts of people. Many of them are retired.
Yep.
Has there been any incidents? No one's hurting themselves, or
No.
any stories you can tell me about what goes on?
No, nothing comes to mind. No, we're pretty incident-free.
Incident-free.
And because we're a lovely, happy group, we don't get much in the way of personality clashes or anything like that. So it's a pretty happy day.
I mean, that's terrific. It's not often that you get a group who get together and there's not some personality business going on.
Yes.
I mean, even in school councils or whatever.
Oh,
like
yes,
that.
yes. Well, perhaps they're more serious than we are.
That's true. What's the best thing about being in the group?
I think the social aspect of it is huge, because a lot of people who do come are people who live alone, and so it gives them some interaction with other people, other like-minded people, and then plus the satisfaction of the sewing, of course, which is the big thing, because, of course, a lot of us sew garments because it's harder to buy things that fit when we get a little older and where our shape changes a little bit, so that to be able to make something that fits you and is flattering is a bonus.
Does that mean that you produce your own patterns as well?
Some do.
Or alter patterns to suit?
And alter to suit, yes. Yes.
Now, you mentioned that the social side of it, is that a big thing, do you think, for you and for the others?
Oh, I think so. Yes, yes. Yep. Very much so.
So we talked about the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any downside to being in the group?
Not to my mind.
Perfect answer. Where do you see the group going in the future? What's going to happen in the next year or two?
Oh, well, hopefully we'll just get bigger and bigger.
Right.
We keep attracting some new people. I think as with all groups, you get your natural attrition. You know, people join and they leave for various reasons. They take up something else or they move away. But if you can keep encouraging new ones to come in all the time, then you're going to keep growing the group.
And more or less how many would come regularly to this group?
About 12.
Okay, that's terrific.
And yet when Susie, who you met, and I started here 3 years ago, we were really only getting about 6.
Right.
So effectively we've doubled in that time.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to some new people who were guests here today who've said, oh, this looks good, perhaps we'd like to come. Absolutely, come down and join us. So, I would like to see it continue to grow.
Yes. Well, let's talk about sewing.
Yes.
Do you need to have a machine, or is it going to be done by hand? Tell us about all that side of the story.
Well, if you want to do it by hand, it would be a much slower process.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not many, if any, that I know of that would do it by hand.
So everything you're doing, you're doing garments and it's a sewing machine?
With a sewing machine, yes.
Is this an expensive exercise?
It needn't be. These days you can pick up a nice little machine from Spotlight or some of those other places for $100, $120.
Well, that's all right, isn't it?
And so it's going to be a basic machine. It's not going to be the big whiz-bang, because you can pay $12,000 for the top of the range. But, that just about boils eggs.
Yes.
So you don't need that unless you're going to go into it in a big way. But the little basic one will do if you need to do forward and reverse.
Yep.
And some zigzag is good. And as long as you can do those, you can...
And buttonholes?
Well, if you can do zigzag, you can do buttonhole.
Oh, can you? Okay. Shows you how much I know about sewing.
That's fine.
And you need something that'll go through denim. That's the biggie in our house.
Absolutely, yes.
You take the jeans up.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, most of them will do that.
Will they?
Yeah.
Okay. Materials? Are materials an expensive item?
Once again, it's like how long's a piece of string.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to places and buy quite cheap from, say, $3 a metre, up to places where you can spend $300 a metre.
Listeners, the arms have spread wide on that one. $300 a metre.
It's depending on what you want.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you would only spend the $300 a metre if you were looking for something absolutely superbly special for mother of the bride or something like that.
Yes.
But if you're doing everyday sewing, this piece was $5 a metre, and I bought 1.5 metres of it to make a top. So
you got a top for $7 and a lot of fun making it as well.
Absolutely, yes.
The thing that I think is nice about sewing, when I sort of look at it, I know you've got the group here.
Yes.
But you can do it anywhere.
Oh, yes.
Like if you're on holidays, you take your bits and bobs with you.
Yes, when we had our caravan, I would take my little sewing machine under the bed, away we went, and so if it was a rainy day, we didn't want to do anything, well, I'd be whizzing something up on the sewing machine.
Now, I don't want to be sexist. This is all ladies, so they would be seamstresses.
Yes.
Is there a name for men?
Oh, I suppose seamster doesn't sound right, does it?
What I was going to...
There are a couple of men in the group. It's obviously a small minority. But
one?
No. We've actually got a couple. Throughout the guild in general, I mean. We don't have any here in our group. But we do have a couple in Queensland.
Where I was going was to find out what the difference is between a seamstress or a male equivalent and a tailor. What's a tailor compared to a seamstress?
Right. Well, tailors traditionally do men's suits, right. So therefore perhaps a woman's suit could fit into that tailored category, whereas seamstresses would make more the casual clothes, the other garments.
Right. I know when I got married, which was a long time ago, my mother-in-law made my wife's wedding dress.
Mm-hmm. A lot of us have done that.
You've done that. And it was a bit different. You couldn't buy that sort of wedding dress. And so,
no.
How are we going to do this? Mother-in-law made it.
Yes.
1970.
Yes.
It had a hood, not a veil.
Wow.
It was very avant-garde, I can tell you.
Very. Yes, indeed.
The purpose of this podcast is to encourage people who are coming up to retirement to do stuff, not to sit at home in their underpants watching telly.
Good idea. Yes.
What advice would you give to people who are coming up to retirement, just generally?
Generally, I think if you haven't already got some kind of hobby or exercise program going, to make some inquiries and to find some of those things to do. I think a hobby like sewing is invaluable, of course, because that's my passion. But I also am involved in other things. I do go to various exercise classes. I do aqua aerobics and I do line dancing. I've taken up those things. Yes, since I retired, I've taken those things up as well. So I keep very active. I think it's important to keep active because I think if you're going to just sit in your underwear and watch television, you're going to deteriorate generally, both in mind and body. And I think you need to get out there and keep the body moving and keep the brain active.
If someone's coming into the hobby, how would they get into it? How would they start and move into the hobby?
If they have no experience whatsoever, I'd be inclined to look for a sewing class. And there are classes around. Now, and I differentiate there because our group, while ever we're encouraging and sharing, we don't actually teach.
Oh, okay.
We don't hold, that sort of class. Yeah. So that if you were an absolute raw beginner, you'd probably need to find somewhere that had classes to learn the very basics. And then you could start to reach out to other groups such as ours.
I see. And so what would you need? You'd need a sewing machine, which might be...
Not necessarily. Some of these classes will supply those things.
Right.
So now I'm not sure how many of the spotlights still do this, but some of them, in the recent past anyway, hold regular classes. Okay. And so you sign up and you go in there and they have a teacher on spot and they have the sewing machines lined up. And so they will teach you there and then on their equipment. So
try before you buy.
So you could try before you buy.
Yes.
Yep. And so then if you felt, yes, this is what I would like to do, then you could look into buying your own machine.
So thank you very much. It's been educational for me. No, I'm not going to become a sewer.
What about your wife? We might bring her in.
There's an idea.
Absolutely.
She must be obeyed.
And,
I could get her out of the house.
And if you live nearby.
Just up the road.
Yes.
Dorothy, thank you very much for your help. It's been fabulous.
You're welcome, Henry. I hope this goes down well for you.
It will.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what a wonderful woman Dorothy is. I bowled into the community centre. She had no idea who I was, and she was gracious enough to give me an interview. And you could hear from her voice that she loved sewing. As she said, she had been sewing since she was 8 years old. Didn't ask her how old she was, and I wasn't game enough to do that, but a lifetime of sewing, and she obviously loves what she's doing. And not only loves what she's doing, but is happy to pass on tricks and tips to people who are new at sewing or haven't got the background that she's got. Now, the club, or guild as they say, meets every month, and it was really obvious that they make firm friendships there. They make those friendships because they are sharing an interest that they're all involved in, and they're all loving it. You heard Dorothy explain that it's not an expensive hobby to start, and a little bit of practice and encouragement, anyone can make some really, really lovely garments for themselves or their family and their friends. I think sewing's probably becoming a bit of a lost art in this world of instant gratification and being able to buy cheap clothing from overseas. When I was young, my mother used to sew and Grandma used to knit. It was the common thing. That's what people did in those days. And the range of clothing wasn't available in the shops, and so if you wanted something a little bit out of the ordinary, Grandma, Mum would sew. I can only imagine the pride of perhaps meeting a friend and they compliment you on a beautiful dress or a blouse, and you think, well, I made that myself. Very, very heartwarming. I can just imagine that. Now, do you sew? Are you involved in this? Would you like to be involved in sewing? If you don't sew, the first step might be to have a look at the internet or have a look in the white pages, and I'm sure that you would find sewing classes nearby. If you have got the basics down, well, go to the internet and have a look for Australian Sewing Guild. I'm going to put the link on the website so that you can follow that up. And they've got lots and lots of clubs or chapters all around Australia. I'm sure you'll find one close by to you. You can always leave a message down in the reply box at the bottom of the page. Tell us what you think about sewing, whether you sew, whether your friends sew. I sort of get the impression that it's coming back a little bit, that the whole art of sewing has died off and is now starting to re-emerge again. A terrific thing. So leave me a note down the bottom of the page. Press the share button. That would be fabulous. I'd be really pleased if you would do that. If you want to leave me a message individually, you can always email me at henry@retiredexcited.com. And that's it for today. It's just been a little short episode, but I've really enjoyed talking to the ladies down there, and especially talking to Dorothy. She was fabulous. So I'll see you next week. Bye then.
I like that. I'm going to give that a go for sure.
Ian, that was terrific.
That was interesting. What a good idea.